Okay, in this video I will try to illustrate my ideas for you, Michael, but this video is for everyone, but I need to talk to you first. This is a free theoretical course on Hegel's philosophy. Here's an illustration of what Hegel calls the concept, which is God. It's the philosophical word for God with which I identified, namely it is a unity of singular, particular, universal, and the free moments are interconnected, so to speak. That's why we say that God is free in one. The singular is this individual that you see. The particular are the realm of the particular characteristics. In my case, I'm 29 years old, namely I am in the generation between 25 and 35, so this is my generation from my particular point of view. I'm a male, European, French citizen, YouTube content creator as a job, which doesn't bring me any money, but I'm not in it for the money. What could I say? Other particularities of all sorts. I have a beard, that's a particularity. There are people who are beardless, etc., etc. So yeah, the universality is the realm of truth, that which is equal for all. If I say 2 plus 2 equals 4, the truth is identical for everything in consciousness, whatever his particularities, whatever his age, his origin, his nationality, his physical attributes, whatever his intelligence, as long as he's conscious. And the realm of the singularity is unique to each person. Each person is alone with his or her singularity. The realm of particularities is the realm of unity, but also opposition. Males are united in their particular gender and they are opposed to females. So all males, most of them, are attracted to females, but there are conflicts between males and females. So it's the realm of unity and attraction, but also repulsion and opposition, but also all males are in conflict with one another to access the females. So the realm of the particularity is ambiguous because it is unity and opposition also. Singularity is the negative because each individual is alone and negates all other as a singular individual. The realm of the particular, I understand my generation, at least in the West, better than other generations, but so I am closer to them, but I am opposed to other generations, and it's not my case. It's the case for everyone. People who are in their 50s or 60s or 70s are opposed to people who are in their 20s or 30s, etc., etc. Europeans, as a particularity, are opposed to all non-Europeans, Asian, blacks, black Africans, Native Americans, etc. But at the same time, the opposition can be a moment of conflict, but also attraction, to have interest for other civilizations, other cultures. This is what leftists have. And also the unity brought forth by the particularity can bring about conflict within the particularity, conflicts between Europeans, for instance. And the universality is what ordinarily people call God, which is the truth, that which is equal for all, and that's why there is only one God, because there is only one truth, and it is identical for everyone. So God is the universal which lives within each human being, and each human being is made in the image of God, namely in the image of the concept, because every thinking human being is a singular with particularities which tie him to a universality, that which we call God. But the problem is that if I say 2 plus 2 equals 4, that's a truth, that's eternal, so that is God as a mathematician, so to speak, but it's a very poor truth because it concerns space, not strictly space because it's arithmetic, but if I enumerate the properties of a triangle, this is a spatial determination. But if I say 2 plus 2 equals 4, that's an arithmetic determination, and it's purely quantitative, and it's unity. So it's very poor. The object is poor. The form is poor. That's what Hegel says in the preface of the Phenomenology. So the real truth is artistic, religious, and eventually philosophical. But there's not just one philosophical truth to speak, because the truth is a process of negation, evolution, development. So that's why God is a process. But eventually all thinking humans have to agree with the universal, which I identify with my mind. That's why we say that there's only one mind, because there's only one God, only one truth. So yeah, but people do not understand this yet. So yeah, that was the illustration of the concept. And now I will illustrate Hegel's philosophy from a theoretical standpoint with a nice graph which summarize very simply, almost too simply, but to make things intelligible, the life of the intellectual, political, or religious, philosophical life of the West, but actually of the whole world, because I identify with what I call God, namely the concept, but it's a different vision of God than the ordinary vision that people have. And in the West, I simplify, we have oppositions in the realm of politics. I will just see, Hegel's books can be useful to elevate yourself. That's a joke. Okay, so I illustrate. The logic of essence, Hegel says, I will use very simple determinations of the logic of essence, namely identity and difference, and positive and negative, and opposition. Der Verstand, which is one-sided abstract thinking, says identity is identity, difference is difference. But here we have the opposition between liberals and conservatives. Liberals defend the equality and the identity of all humans, and therefore they defend the right to difference. Conservatives, or actually it's more the patriots, the patriots, yeah, I say liberals, but actually cosmopolitan, patriots and cosmopolitan, patriots defend their identity on the name, on the principle of the right to differentiate themselves from other nations. Patriotism, if you're an American patriot, a French patriot, a German patriot, an Egyptian patriot, whatever, you want to defend the identity of your country by differentiating yourself from all other countries. So identity is not just identity, it is also difference. So identity is difference, and difference is identity. That's Hegel's philosophy, theoretically 101. And then the positive and the negative, they are a difference in which the different moments, the different determinations are in a conceptual unity, namely one is what it is to the extent that it is not what it is not. So it has its being, but actually it has its essence, because the realm of essence is the realm of conceptual relations. In the other, you are a conservative to the extent that you are not a liberal, or you could say a conservative is a not liberal, a not liberal. I would even write this because it might enable to understand. A conservative is a not liberal, so it is. They are in a conceptual unity. And the same with patriots and cosmopolites. You are a patriot to the extent that you are not a cosmopolite. People in the mostly right-wing community they think that they have discovered a great truth, which is a great truth actually, that libertarian and Marxists are two sides of the same coin. That's the way of expressing a philosophical truth of logic, namely that the opposites are in a conceptual unity. The image of the coin, that the two sides of the same coin are united. You cannot have a one-sided coin. That's logically impossible. So yeah, that's the expression that they use, because libertarians and Marxists are opposed to one another. And this is the process of the development of consciousness in the West. Namely, it's very simplified, but the nationalists are opposed to the globalists. Those who enter the realm of race realism and IQ and psychology, they are opposed generally to the entire leftist spectrum of anti-racism. In these spheres also you have the MGTOW movement, who are opposed to women, so I could have added feminism. Here you have, in mostly North America, a resurgence of National Socialism or white nationalism. They are opposed to the JQ, and a resurgence of European traditionalists, pagan, traditionalists around Guénon, Evola and stuff like that, sometimes influenced by Indian spirituality. And basically these people, they are opposed to the entire world, because they say the entire world is corrupt. That's the Kali Yuga. Not only to the Jews, the left, but also to the non-spiritual right-wingers. So basically they are opposed to everyone. And here, Michael, I'm talking directly to you. I will tell my personal experience. In 2016, I was basically in this sphere. Now, I was not a cosmopolite consciously, but I was vaguely a Marxist, right? And I was a very weird type of Marxist, an ecological, old-fashioned Marxist. And but also, I had no consciousness of anything. I had just this consciousness. Marxist, liberal, not in the sense of tolerance, and I was not consciously a liberal as they understood it, but my mindset was programmed unconsciously as the dominant ideology of the West, namely there is one race, the human race. I mean, I was not even conscious of the word race, but all humans are equal. I had no consciousness of identity of any kind, or any of these questions of spirituality, whatever. So it just in 2016, I had some sort of a cognitive dissonance after a terrorist attack occurred, and I just wanted to understand, because my Marxist worldview could not explain this terror attack. So I went towards the path which is called the red pill in the West. So I became firstly a conservative intellectually, a patriot, etc., etc., etc. This is my intellectual development simply, but it's not just my intellectual development, it's the entire movement of spirit in the Western world. And up until the moment around end of 2017, early 2018, when I was in this sphere, when I started to have weird, pretty dark experiences, and yeah, it was not really pleasant. I had pretty dark views. I will not go into detail. And I experienced intellectually what could be called the abyss. And Nietzsche famously said, beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster unless if you gaze into the abyss gazes back into you. So I was a good-hearted Marxist, but then I became more and more radicalized intellectually, and I started to think that these were the good guys and these were the bad guys. Until I found myself in the abyss, and then I realized that then I started to have spiritual experiences. I started to really have spiritual experiences, a cosmic view, a cosmic consciousness. I started to envision things as the substance that Spinoza talks about, that we are all modes of the one infinite substance. And that's when, after having gone through this process, I started to talk about the absolute reality. when I discovered the German poet Novalis. That's my development in January 2018. And that's when I discovered Hegel. After having gone briefly through the process, briefly it took me 1.5 years, but in 18 months I had done the entire process. And I discovered Hegel. And I was amazed and fascinated by Hegel, and I thought that Hegel was the savior of what I called Europe, that I was in love with Europe, and this is how I envisioned Europe, and I thought that Hegel was the savior of Europe. And I continued my development until I had an experience when I fell into the abyss again, intellectually, and this time I found really a mirror. I experienced intellectual hell by looking at myself in a mirror. I saw my own reflection in the mirror. So I understood that I am me and I am my own reflection in the mirror, and I am at the bottom of the abyss, if the abyss has a bottom, because it is said that it is a bottomless pit. But yeah, so that was really weird. And then I started to have other spiritual experiences, and I started to go more and more deeply into Hegel until in August 2018, the experience that I keep talking about is that I became aware that I was reason. Reason is the conscious certainty of being the whole of reality. So I realized in August 2018 that I am the whole of reality. That my consciousness contains the whole of reality. And it might think, okay, it's just the Western world. But actually, when you are a conservative, you are defending Western values against all the non-Western spheres. When you are a patriot, you are defending your country against all other countries. Libertarianism is universal. There are libertarians in Korea, in Africa. It's a universal ideology. So it's, and Marxism even more. Marxism is developed throughout the entire world. Cosmopolitans, it's a worldwide phenomenon. Liberalism in the American Western version, it's a typically white idea, but globalism, it's worldwide. The left, this brand of the left, typically it's a typically white thing, but race realism, when you study the question of race, it applies to all races, so you gather knowledge about the entire world. The resurgence of radical right-wing white nationalist identity politics, they are opposed to the Jews and to the whole world, and especially the European right-wing pagans, they think of themselves as being threatened by the entire world. So it is the story of the phenomenology of the spirit in the Western world, but actually it brings forth in its development the entirety of world politics, world sociology, world economics, world science, world history. So it's spirit. There's only one spirit. And yeah. And this process of being, and being is God, being becoming conscious of itself is the development of God becoming conscious of himself. And there is only one God, because there's only one being, and there's only one consciousness. That's why I identify with the consciousness of the totality. To speak things differently, all these events, the entirety of reality is happening in my mind. And it seems unintelligible for the people watching, because it has been unintelligible for me for a very long time. I have just understood recently, and then I understood this in 2018, then I forgot in 2020, and then I recovered my mind, and I recently understood that I am what Hegel calls the absolute idea. And this process is Hegel, because Hegel is not a German philosopher of the 19th century. Hegel is the process of becoming conscious of himself. And I just take a rest because I struggle to stand for a long time, but yeah. And Michael, I'm talking to everyone, but I'm talking to you especially, Michael. Spirit, or cosmic consciousness, or the substance and the subject, or absolute ID. Here we are in the realm of opposition and relativism or relativity or dualism or essence, actually, because every determination is opposed to another, so that the opposites are in a conceptual unity, and they go in pairs. Here we enter the realm of what Hegel calls the concept, namely unity. Spirit is not European or leftist or whatever, it's the unity of both. Cosmic consciousness, the cosmos has no race, no anthropological determination. The substance and the subject, I identify with the subject of the substance. There's only one substance, which is the entirety of the universe, and every thinking human is a thinking mode of the substance, and I identify with the subject of this substance. The substance contains all the modes, all the determinations, all the characteristics, but because it contains them all, it is not one more than the other. And the absolute idea is my mind, which unfolds in the entirety of the process. Because Hegel, there's a lot to say about Hegel. Hegel is I'm not talking about the German philosopher, I'm talking about, I will here illustrate. Actually, this picture of Hegel, it's a delusion. It's like if I said Pythagoras' theorem about the square triangles, and I put an image of Pythagoras and say this is the theorem. No, the theorem of Pythagoras is independent from the man Pythagoras. It's a universal eternal idea. The philosophy of Hegel is independent of the man Hegel. It's the content of the book. And yeah, so speculative philosophy, if one might say so, saying Hegel's philosophy, is non-dualistic philosophy, but if the opposites are in a conceptual unity, in order for them to be united, they first have to be differentiated, and this entire process is a process of differentiation and reuniting in a dialectical evolution. Here I have simplified to the utmost, but if I take the Marxists, they are not just the Marxists, there are 50 shades of Marxists. Ecological Marxist, old-fashioned Marxist, third world Marxist, neo-Marxist, esoteric Marxist, cultural Marxist, whatever. Libertarians, there are right-wing libertarians, there are left-wing libertarians, there are libertarians leaning on nationalism, libertarians leaning on patriotism, libertarians with conservative values. There are those who try to unite white nationalism with libertarianism. So there are many brands. I just simplified to the utmost. And here it seems very abstract, but I could use names. Conservatives. Here you have Fox News, Trump, Patriot. I don't know what are the patriots in America, but in every country. Libertarians, you have the Mises Institute, Ron Paul. The nationalists, you have basically the alt-right. Here you have more, it's more of a theoretical movement, but you have Richard Lynn, Jared Taylor, the works on IQ, Philip J. Rushton, although he's dead, but the works of Philip J. Rushton, the bell curve. The bell curve is a mixture of this and this. Here you have Zizek, but Zizek is kind of a weird Marxist because he has some right-wing tendency. In conservatism you have Jordan Peterson. You have Jews here, but you also have Jews who are race realist and bordering on white nationalists. So it's very complicated. Hegel's philosophy is very complicated. And yeah, so what I want to illustrate is that every moment, I will just sit for a few seconds because my legs hurt, but every moment can be And here we are, I will not go into full detail, but just to illustrate the complexity, every moment can be interpreted through the mediation of this book, and this book. So Hegel's philosophy is a book within a book, within a book, within reality, within a book, within a book, within a book. So it's infinitely complex. And I will illustrate with the logic of Encyclopedia that I have listed here. I'm just laying the foundations of Hegel's philosophy. Let us take the determinations of nature, physics, chemistry, biology. Actually, that's not really important, but every individual in the process is a determination of nature, in the sense that it is a quantitative determination of the universal quantum field. All this exists within nature, and humans are made of chemical molecules and have a biological structure. I'm not talking about anthropology, but here strictly biology. And for instance, in the conservative libertarian views, there is the question of the RK strategy. Namely, they think that the left or the cosmopolitan and the liberals are opposed to the patriots and the libertarians on biological grounds, that it's a different reproductive strategy. So there are biological differences, but the realm of nature here is not really important because we are dealing with spirit. But I will skip briefly nature, but the realm of spirit, which is consciousness, basically, the subjective human mind. We have the determinations of anthropology, and this is what we call today sociobiology or race realism. And in the view of Hegel, there is the soul, the climate, the seasons, the telluric cosmic life, the influence of the planets, the movements of the planets and the stars, the various races and the natural spirits, the local spirits, the various ages of life, the relationship of the sexes, family, sensation, feeling, habit, physiognomy. Here it's just anthropology within subjective spirits, within the Encyclopedia. So you could say, I take just one example. That's how complicated Hegel's philosophy is. Conservatives. Conservatives are determined by their individual soul. There are people who are inclined towards conservatism. They are partly influenced by the climate and the seasons. Probably depending on the climate in which you live, you have a tendency to be more conservative or more liberal, maybe. Depending on the seasons also, maybe winter is a time to be a conservative, summer you can be more liberal, I don't know. That's a joke. The races. The race is a prominent question because here the question of race is just implicit. That would be Ansicht for Hegel. So the conservative, the patriots, the libertarians in the West do not say that they are white, but basically most of them, 95% of them are whites. Not 95, but conservatives and patriots, they can be of all colors. Libertarians, they are mostly whites. Nationalists, it's an ethnic question, so it's in the Western world, these are only whites. Here you have Jews in the realm of race realism, National Socialists, most of them are whites. There can be black National Socialists maybe, but that seems improbable. But why not? In the world of Hegel, the strangest occurrences are possible. So just the question of race. Each one of these is determined by his race and by the climate, the season, the soul, etc., etc. The local spirits in a country like the US, depending on the state in which you live, California or Massachusetts or Michigan or Texas, the climate is different, but the culture is different, the people anthropologically are different, so each state has its own Geist, so to speak, local spirit. The ages of life. Usually we say when you are when you are young, you are a liberal. When you grow older, you are a conservative. But in the West, the more radical views are held by the youth, people between in their 20s and in their 30s, 35, because the new generation, the Zeitgeist, is more and more radicalized toward the right. And these are the older, in the Western world, the older people who are defending these ideas because they have inherited these ideas from the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s, but also there are, because they control the educational system, so the youth can also be very radicalized toward the left, but there's a revolt of another part of the youth, that's the realm of the particular, people of the same generation, they have lots in common, but they're also opposed. So the ideas, the right-wing radical ideas are mostly defended by the youth in the West, the white youth. So that's complicated, but also the white youth is the most fanatically leftist, Black Lives Matter, equality, etc., etc., and that's complicated. Just to illustrate, I'm taking only the determination of subjective spirit to illustrate one aspect. Then there are the relationship of the sexes. I have not written this on the board, but here you have, let us say it's here, those who study realist anthropology, they will discover the differences between women, male and females, men and women, and I could have said feminism here. So the divide between the Mikto or the patriarchy and the feminists, the women, it's in the logic, in the Encyclodia of Hegel, it's the relationship of the sexes. And depending if you are a male or a female, a man or a woman, you will be more attracted toward certain political ideology, certain views, etc., etc. Family. The question of family life is different in a cosmopolitan view and in a nationalist view. Here, the family is considered as an archaic, patriarchal construct. Here, it's the pinnacle of civilization and society, so you have opposition in this sphere. Then feeling, disease, depending on your political affiliation, maybe you do not suffer from the same disease. Then habits and physiognomy, depending on the characteristic of your face, you will maybe partly be influenced to adopt more this view, etc., etc. But they are all in a conceptual unity. That's a progress from one. The more people develop Marxist view, the more libertarian emerge. The more the anti-racist promote their idea, the more there's a race realist opposition, and the more the knowledge about race realism is being made manifest on the internet, the more it is suppressed, etc., etc. That's a dialectical process. And here I've just illustrated anthropology in the realm of subjective spirits, and there are countless aspects in the encyclopedia. There is consciousness, there's psychology, then there's objective spirit, there's the realm of institutions, law, morality. So the libertarians have a certain view of what law and justice and order and public safety should be. The Marxists have a different view, but I basically both want the abolition of the state. So the patriots have a different vision of economics than the nationalist or the national socialist. The conservative have a different economic vision than the globalist, or sometimes they are in teams, so it's very complex. And then the realm of absolute spirit, each of these individuals, depending on all the previous determinations, have his own particular view of art. There are some artistic productions which are more appreciated by some people here, by some people there. In religion, here you have a more Christian view, here you have a more atheistic or New Age, here you have a pagan, so the Christians and the pagans are opposed in the process. That's complicated. And then philosophy. But I am here to provide the philosophy. The philosophy is the philosophy which includes the totality within itself in its dialectical conceptual development, and that's the self-unfolding process of being, that which we call God. And that's just the view of the Encyclopedia. You could also take, that's what I try to do, the view of logic, namely to think about this process, which is the manifestation of the mind of God, which is a world spirit becoming conscious of itself, which is the life of God, the entirety of the process, which includes the totality of the world. And yeah, we could use logical determinations to go into very difficult details. What makes a liberal, someone who is not aware of anything, switch from liberalism to conservatism? There are the anthropological, sociological, economic disposition, but let us say that he stumbles upon a video by Jordan Peterson. That's a quantitative determination. Jordan Peterson makes a lot of views on YouTube. Someone stumbles upon Jordan Peterson. He notices that most of what Peterson says makes a lot of sense, and that's an intensity, that's a logical determination. The ideas of Peterson are very intense, so they are very extended, so they have a wide extension, so they attract people, so you have attraction. There are those who are attracted by Peterson, those who find him repulsive, not physically, but his ideas. So you have the logical determination. I could go on and on and on. That's just to illustrate that Hegel's philosophy is very complex. And Michael, when you watch this, I made this video for you because in August 2018, I understood that I was the entire process. And I had this idea in mind for about 1.5 years, in the last half of 2018 and in the whole year of 2019, and I tried to communicate and share my thoughts, but I failed. And then I stopped because this idea seemed so nonsensical, so absurd, so ludicrous that I gave up, and I recovered the idea 2.5 months ago, and that's why I've started making videos again. So I know, and a few days ago, I understood that I am what Hegel calls the absolute idea. So basically, my universality, which is invisible, it's immaterial, is the manifestation of all this. So we are all one because there is only one being, one mind, one God, one truth. So I am the totality of this. And now, Michael, but all the people watching this, but I'm talking directly to Michael, you might understand why I am making so much videos to try to reach you, is because I know that at some moment I will have a mental breakdown, because I spend my days thinking to try to solve the contradictions, but my mind has all the contradictions of the totality of being within itself. So I am the left and the right, the globalist and the nationalist, the Jews and those who oppose the Jews, because I am a me and I am the totality. And I made videos for you, Michael, because I expect, if there's one person, maybe I'm deluding myself, and if you fail to meet the expectations, I won't blame you. And if I do blame you, you will have the right to blame me back, because I will have been dishonest. But Michael, I expect you to understand me, which is my highest self and your highest self. My universality and your universality are identical. We are the same spirit. And the reason why I'm making these videos for you, Michael, is because your particularities and my particularities, you are standing basically here and you are aware of all this. I simplify. You are in this sphere. And I could make a universal speech if I was given many years, a lot of time. I could make a speech to convince every thinking human that I am he or she, that we are spiritually identical, but I would have to go through the entire process and trying to convince. Here, a liberal is already vaguely political, but a person from any African country, to explain him everything, it would take me it would take me many months, many years, not because a lack of intelligence on his part or on my part, but because the question is so complex. So I am in a position where I can only speak my truth through the mediation of my particularities. This is the cunning of reason. Reason is basically the mind of God. So the universal is using the particular to achieve his own purpose. That's very smart. So I am trying to reach you, Michael, because as of now, you are the only person in the entire universe who can get my message and understand what I mean, because you have gone through the whole process, but you are here. And if I had to illustrate in symbolic language, this is my heart, my emotions. This is my mind. My heart and my mind are in conflict with one another. My heart is bleeding because deep down I believe that they are the good guys. All these people, they are the good guys. And the right wing, with which I identify, sometimes they are the bad guys. I talk to you directly, Michael. We are the bad guys. When I went through the process the first time, I thought I was good and I had no knowledge of this. Then I discovered actually they are not that bad. They speak the truth. They are honest. They are devoted. And I went through the process and I thought these are the good guys. These are the bad guys. And then I found myself in my reflection in the mirror, and my views of right and wrong changed, and I realized I am evil. I am the root of all the problems. And that's complicated, because I will put a song by Ava Max, My Heart, and I think my heart and my mind. It expresses how I feel intellectually. Because if I had to be honest, I would say they are the good guys and they are the bad guys, but also they are kind of deluding themselves. They are nice, but they are kind of dumb. Here they are smart, but here they are kind of dumb. They are naive, and here they are more cynical but more intelligent. So you have the emotions, the sweetness, the kindness, and here you have the cynicism, the bitterness, the intelligence. And this part is oppressing this part, although from the perspective of this part, they are the oppressors. So it's not black and white, it's not the good guys or the bad guys, because there are pretty nasty people on this part and very decent, very good, very honest people on this part. But when you are entering these spheres, it's very difficult, because when you think that all the other are bad, you end up, like Nietzsche said, but it's also part of the philosophy of Hegel, because Hegel and Nietzsche are kind of identical, that at the bottom of the abyss, there is a mirror. In hell, there is a mirror. Because when you think everyone else is a monster, you realize that you are the monster. So I made this video for you, Michael, that at some moment you will watch. This is an illustration, because how am I supposed to deal with the knowledge that I am the whole of reality? I am every conflict, every opposition, every problem, every act of violence, every evil deed, every malevolence. I am not just that. I am also, if I had to be honest, I am also the good aspects. But to have the knowledge that in the abyss, in hell, in the dark regions of being, it is me, it will drive me insane. So yeah. So I try to rationalize, to keep a logical mind. That's why I keep reading the books, to try to produce videos which make people intelligible, to try to help people elevate their mind in the realm of pure thought, to try to deal with the difficulty. But there comes a moment when philosophy as a theoretical adventure or process will not be enough. I will be confronted by the dark, and I will probably lose my mind. And when I do, it might happen in a few days, in a few weeks, in a couple of months. I don't know. There comes a moment when I will go nuts. And that's why I am giving information to you, so that when I go crazy, you can keep a clear and coherent mind. And eventually maybe you will have to help me by maybe hurting me in some way, because I understand Hegel enough to understand that the reason that we are so close, so closely determined, you, Michael, and me, the particularity is also the realm of opposition. So someday we might be opposed. Our universality will always be the same, but eventually I might become your opponent and you might become my opponent in some distant future, and it will be for the greater good of God as a universality, but our particularities might clash at some moment. And if it happens, maybe it won't happen, I don't know, but I would like you to understand this in a philosophical way. That's what I could say. Hopefully I have made things clear. Yeah. And also I will add a song by Muse, which explains a dialectical process, which is hysteria, in the description below.